Dear faithful reader, you deserve a big pat on your back, because you have read up to this chapter the book, How to Handle All Kinds of Sales Objections. Thank you, and please continue reading. Don't stop. But before jumping into the deep end of this chapter, let's preview the chapter's salient points. Yes, in essence, buyer may have a misconception of your product is too hard to use. Hence you must creatively make the prospect want to try your product out. To do that, reframe this objection as an opportunity for growth. In truth, buyers are overwhelmed, they're fearful of difficult change, and they're often cynical from past negative experiences. Moreover, here are 5 ways to overcome the objection your product is too hard to use. First, pitch them on a simple start. Second, show them how to get help. 3. Do the work for them. 4. Make them realize the complexity is worth it, and lastly, show them it's not as complex as they think. That said, let's drill deeper into the core of this chapter, shall we? Chapter 11, The Product is Too Complex. Objections. Quote, "Nothing will ever be attempted if all possible objections must first be overcome." Samuel Johnson. He was an English writer who made lasting contributions as a poet, playwright, essayist, moralist, critic, biographer, editor, and lexicographer. In business-to-business sales, many companies think their product is too hard to use. This could be a barrier for potential buyers to enter into the sales cycle. Make it more likely that users will want to try your product out. Make the product as easy as possible for them to get started with you. For example, give them a demo or link them to a tutorial. 5 ways to overcome the "your product is too complicated" sales objection. If you're selling anything more complex than paper clips, your product can be intimidating. It could be software, or office equipment, or social media management. Any of those things can seem very complicated, and that can make for a hard sell. It sounds good, but it's too complicated is a common objection in sales, but it shows up in other industries, too. It's tough to deal with because you can't make your product simpler. Well, that's mostly true. We'll get to a sort of exception below. But with the right approach, you can reframe this objection as an opportunity for growth. With that reframing and carefully attending to the real objections underlying this one, you can make the sale. Want to take your objection management skills to the next level? Before we get into the 5 ways to deal with this objection, let's talk about something that many sales reps don't realize. It's not about your product. Let's get this out of the way right now. Dealing with this objection isn't about your product. It's not about your company. It's not about you. It's about how your prospect is feeling. Buyers are overwhelmed, they're fearful of difficult change, and they're often cynical from past negative experiences. Would you buy in that state? No. And neither will they. So it's your job to get them out of that emotional condition. They need to go from overwhelmed, fearful, and cynical to clear, confident, and comfortable. If you can get them excited about buying, you've already won the battle. This is a big mind shift for a lot of people. But remember, selling isn't about your product. It's about your customer. Keep that in mind, and you'll be set to deal with any objection. But it's especially important for this one. Trust me, we worked super hard to make a sales CRM, customer relations management, that's as simple as possible. We cut out all the features that we didn't need. It's a lean, slim, sales productivity powerhouse. But people are still afraid of how complicated it is. I've dealt with this objection more times than I can count. And you can absolutely overcome it. Bad experiences in the past don't help. Let's go back to where I said that buyers can be cynical. This happens when they've had a bad experience with a similar product in the past. Maybe they bought a similar type of software and had a disastrous implementation process. Or they never got past the introduction phase, so they lost a ton of money on a product. Once you've come to an understanding on the value proposition, you have 5 ways to proceed. 1. Pitch them on a simple start. Jumping into a complex software system or any of today's complicated products, maybe they can implement a single part of your software. Or start using your product in a single office building instead of throughout their entire branches. But prospects are typically comforted knowing that they don't need to go all out from the start. Perhaps they can implement a single part of your software, or start using your product in a single office building instead of throughout their entire company. If you have a complex product, give your customers a way to ease into it. If your company doesn't yet have a good way to start simple, try to come up with one. It's often cheaper than some other ways to deal with this objection, which is a definite bonus when you're selling it. 2. Show them how to get help. There are tons of talented contractors and consultants out there. I'm certain that there's one who will help people implement your software, set it up, and get it running at full speed. This takes a huge burden off your prospects' shoulders. Now they don't have to go through a potentially weeks-long process that, frankly, typically sucks. They can hire someone else to take care of the hard part. So your prospect gets all the value of your product without most of the hard work. It's a win-win. Whatever cost they pay to bring in a consultant to help with this will be paid back in full by the gains they get from your product. I also like to offer help in finding the right person to help with this. Over time, you get to know the people who work with your product, and you're bound to meet consultants who can help your prospects. You need to be really on your game with your value proposition here. Show them with previous examples that paying even thousands of dollars for a consultant will pay off because of how awesome your product is. It'll seem really expensive at first, you can say, but you'll be blown away by how much more effective you are once you're up and running. 3. Do the work for them. I know this seems super complicated, but for clients like you, we take care of the hard part. We work through implementation, set up our API, do any necessary customization coding, train your employees, give you the full handbook on how to use the software, and put you in touch with our customer success team once a month to make sure everything's going well. How could you say no to that? Lots of prospects can't. Which is a great reason to provide all the support your customer needs. Overwhelm and cynicism go out the window. Of course, you have to be able to actually provide all of this support. This is not the place to overpromise on what you can deliver. But if you can help your customers get up to full speed fast, you'll probably find that you make a lot more sales. 4. Make them realize the complexity is worth it. This is often what sales reps think they're doing, but you need to approach it more carefully than you expect. Don't just tell the prospect that they're wrong. You have to make them think it was their idea, that the complexity would be worth it. If you have stories about other companies that bit the bullet and just dealt with the complexity until they became comfortable with your product, this is a great place to share them. Because sometimes this issue just comes down to a tough truth: you're going to have to deal with it. 5. Show them it's not as complex as they think. I started this post with the idea that modern products are complex. And that's true. But sometimes prospects think that your product is more complex than it is. For example, anyone who's tried to set up a Salesforce instance knows that CRMs can be extremely complex and hard to use. That's why we sometimes walk people through the entire setup process for our CRM in a single call. 20 minutes into the call, they're able to call all their priority leads, and that changes their minds to a degree that no amount of persuasive talk could achieve. Once they see that you're offering something simpler than they're used to, you've got them. To recap in a nutshell, do remember that convincing people of your product is complicated isn't always easy. That's why you need to be a picture of clarity and confidence. You need to be excited about this opportunity. You're helping your prospect meet their ultimate business goals, and that's awesome. When your prospect can tell that you're excited, they can't help but feel more positive. Again, you must do what you can to help them reach that buying stage, and you'll have a long-term customer with great lifetime value. Need I say more? I guess not. End of chapter.